Welcome to the deep dive. So we're jumping straight in today with a claim that, well, it fundamentally challenges how you think about your own mind.
It really does. It's the idea that thinking isn't this natural thing we all just do, like breathing. It's a skill, a learnable skill.
And a skill that's almost completely separate from, your raw intelligence.
Exactly. The source we're digging into, Edward de Bono, he puts it perfectly. He says, intelligence is like the horsepower of a car. Thinking is like the skill of the car driver.
Wow. Okay. That distinction is huge.
It is, and it explains why you can have incredibly smart people who are, frankly, terrible thinkers. They're caught in what de Bono calls the intelligence trap.
So they have all this mental horsepower, but they just don't know how to drive the car.
Precisely. They never learn how to steer or how to generate new routes. Our source for this is his book, Teach Yourself to Think. And de Bono isn't some obscure academic.
No, not at all. His work's been used by huge companies, right? Like Apple, British Airways.
Yeah, he's written over 60 books, translated into 40 languages. He's all about creating practical toolkits for thinking.
And that's our mission today. We want to unpack his 5-stage framework, which is designed to make thinking, a clear, repeatable operation.
That's the one. 2LOPOSO go.
2OPOSO go. But before we get to the solution, you said we need to understand the problem he's trying to solve.
We do, because he starts with this massive critique. A case against, get this, 2,500 years of traditional Western thought.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is. He says our traditional education is excellent but inadequate. It's great for analysis, but terrible for a world that's constantly changing.
Okay, so where did we go wrong? Who's to blame for these 2,500 years of inadequate thinking?
He points the finger at what he calls the Gang of Three in ancient Athens.
The Gang of Three. I like it.
Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle.
The big ones. So let's break it down. What was the issue with Socrates?
With Socrates, it was all about argument, about dialectic. His whole method was based on the idea that if you just attack what's wrong critically, relentlessly.
The truth will be what's left standing at the end.
Exactly. And that left us with a deep cultural obsession with criticism. We think it's somehow smarter to point out flaws than to build something new.
Oh, that is so true. You see it everywhere. In business meetings, it's always safer to shoot down an idea than to propose one.
Precisely. And then comes Plato. He was reacting against the sophists, who were kind of, truth is relative types. So Plato got obsessed with finding the truth, a single capital T truth.
Which sounds good, but I'm guessing it has a downside.
A huge one. That search for one perfect truth often ignores complexity. It sacrifices what's useful for what's logically pure.
And the third member of the gang, Aristotle.
Aristotle gave us our operating system, this powerful logic system based on boxes.
Doxes.
Definitions, classifications, all based on past experience. So for the next 2,000 years, thinking became this exercise in fitting new information into old pre-made boxes.
Which works fine if the world stays the same.
Right. But when you've got disruptive technology, rapid change, those old boxes suddenly become intellectual prisons.
Okay, but hang on. We need logic.
Right.
We need definitions. Otherwise, it's just chaos. How does he square that?
That's the crucial point. He says the problem isn't the logic system. The problem is what happens before you even get to the logic.
Okay.
The primary flaw, he argues, is our total neglect of perception.
Perception. So how we look at the world in the first place.
Yes. How we frame a problem. Is the glass half empty or half full? He says most errors in thinking are not errors of logic, they are errors of perception.
So you can have flawless logic, but if your initial perception is wrong...
Your flawless logic will just lead you brilliantly to the wrong answer.
I see the difference now. Logic is like an enclosing system. It only works with what's already on the table.
Right, but perception has to be a generative system. It has to open things up to what's not there yet.
Okay, that's a bit abstract. Is there an example?
He has this brilliant ant analogy. Imagine an ant on the trunk of a huge tree.
Right.
The chance of it finding its way to one specific leaf way out on some branch is maybe 1 in 8,000. There are just too many possible paths.
Great.
Impossible. But once the ant is on the leaf, what's the chance of it finding its way back to the trunk?
Well, it just has to follow the path back. It's 100%.
Exactly. In hindsight, the path is perfectly logical, but in foresight, it was completely invisible. That's the gap. We're all great at analyzing the path backwards, but we need tools to generate the path forwards.
And that's where TOPOPOSO go comes in.
That is precisely it. This is the 5-stage practical framework.
Okay, let's get into it. Stage 1, TO. Where do I want to go to? That seems pretty obvious.
It seems obvious, but this is where most people fail. They define their purpose way too broadly. Something like, I want to think about my career.
Which is useless.
It's too big. You have to break it down. Redefine it. I want to think about what training I need next year. Or I want to think about who I need to network with this quarter. You have to be specific.
So that's TO, define the target. Then we move to ALO, the information stage.
Yep. LO is where you gather all your ingredients, facts, data, information, but also perceptions and feelings.
Feelings? Really? I thought this was logic system.
No, and that's critical. Thinking is meant to deliver the values you seek. So your feelings, your intuition, your values, they are all valid and necessary pieces of information. It's like the red hat from his 6 thinking hats.
Okay, so we're not just looking at spreadsheets. And you use specific tools here.
Yeah, he has these great attention-directing tools. Things like CAF consider all factors, or CNS consequences and sequels. OPV is a big one. Other people's views. They force you to look around in all directions.
Got it. So TO sets the destination. LO gathers the materials. Now we get to the engine room, right? PO.
PO, the heart of the whole thing. It stands for possibility, production, progress. This is the generative, creative stage.
This is where we actually come up with the ideas.
This is it. It's the bridge from input to output. This is the possibility system that he says drives all our real achievements in science and technology.
So how do we do PO? He breaks it down into 4 different approaches, right?
4 fundamental ways to make that connection. The first one is the one we all use 99% of the time. The search for the routine.
Just find the right box and use the standard solution.
You got it. Identify the situation, apply the preset action. The entire legal system is built on precedent. It's efficient.
But what if there's no routine? What's the second method?
That's the general approach. You start with broad concepts and then narrow down. He calls it the concept fan.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say you have a staff shortage. The routine approach is, post a job ad. The general approach would be to step back and say, okay, the broad concepts are 1, increase the supply of staff. 2, reduce the need for staff. Or 3, get more work out of the staff we already have. And then you generate specific ideas under each of those broad paths. It forces you onto new tracks.
I like that. It's structured. So what if that still doesn't work?
Then you need method number 3, the creative approach. This is the lateral thinking stuff. This is where you deliberately generate new ideas.
This is where it gets a little weird.
It does. The first tool is the challenge process. You take something for granted, like a pencil has to be rigid, and you just challenge it. Not because it's wrong, but just to see what happens. Why is it rigid? What if it were flexible?
Okay, that makes sense. But the next one, provocation, or poo. This one feels, I don't know, a bit silly. You're supposed to make a deliberately illogical statement.
You are, and you have to trust the process. The point of a provocation isn't to be logical. The point is to create movement.
Movement.
It's about breaking your current thinking pattern. So you take his famous example. Pooh, cars have square wheels. It's absurd.
Completely absurd.
But then you think, okay, what's the movement here? How would that work? Well, the car would bump up and down as the wheel turned on its corners. And that thought, that movement, leads you to a totally new and practical idea. Active or intelligent suspension. A system that anticipates the road.
Wow. Okay, so the illogical idea is just a stepping stone you use to jump to a different track.
It's a temporary provocation you use to get out of a rut. Another one is random entry. You're stuck on a problem, say, designing a car park. You pick a random word from the dictionary, let's say, sequin.
Sequin. How on earth does that help with the car park?
You force a connection. A sequin is shiny, small. There are lots of them. Maybe that sparks an idea about dividing the huge anonymous car park into lots of small, distinct, color-coded sections. You force a new connection.
Okay, I'm starting to see it. What's the last approach in PO?
The fourth is design and assembly. This is constructive thinking. It's just putting different existing elements together to meet a specific brief. Like an architect using steel, glass, and wood to design a unique house.
Okay, so after all that, we've gone through TO, LO, and we've generated a ton of possibilities in PO. Now we're drowning in ideas.
Right, so we need to narrow down. We move to the first output stage. SO. What is the outcome?
This is the funnel.
Exactly. Its symbol is a funnel. You take all those PO possibilities and you reduce them to one usable choice. And it's a sequence. Development, evaluation, choice, and finally, decision.
Let's talk about development. How do you develop a crazy idea like the sequin car park?
You shape it and tailor it. You shape it to fit constraints like the budget. You tailor it to your specific resources.
Yeah.
And you do fault correction. You use the black hat to find weaknesses.
But only to fix them.
Yes, not to kill the idea. You strengthen the weak points instead of just throwing the whole thing out. It's constructive criticism.
And after it's developed, you evaluate it.
Right. Yellow hat for the benefits, black hat for the dangers. You list them all out. Then you make your choice.
And the very last part of SO is the decision, which he ties to risk.
Vitally important. If the risk is high, you have to design a fallback position. It's more than a plan B. It's a safety net you build before you jump. If our new product fails in market A, we immediately pivot to market B. You limit the potential damage from the start.
So we've chosen our path, we've mitigated the risk.
Yeah.
Now for the final stage. Go and act, putting the thinking to work.
This is about action. He calls it operacy, the skills of making things happen. Thinking is useless if it doesn't result in action.
And the framework helps here, too. It's not just project management.
It's still structured thinking.
Yeah.
You break the action down into stages. But most importantly, you have to anticipate what he calls if boxes.
If boxes.
Things that are outside your control. If our main supplier is late, then we switch to the backup. If the competitor cuts their price, then we launch our loyalty program. You design responsive plans.
And a big part of action is people.
It is, and this is where the tools really shine. His research found that when groups formally used tools like the yellow and black hats to discuss a plan, they generated almost 3 times as many useful points as groups who were just told to, be objective. Structure works.
So if we pull this all together, de Bono is really saying that thinking is a skill. It's a structured process. And the TOLOPOSO-GO framework is the scaffolding that helps us move past just criticizing things.
Exactly. It moves us away from endlessly analyzing what is to actually designing what can be.
It's about building that conceptual flexibility. I love that analogy he used about the short-sighted hawk.
It's a great one. Because its vision wasn't perfect, it couldn't just hunt for frogs. It had to develop a broader concept, small things that move. So if the frogs disappeared, it could immediately switch to mice or lizards without missing a beat.
It wasn't trapped in a single box. We need that flexibility.
We do. De Bono's claim was that our civilization could be hundreds of years more advanced if we hadn't been trapped by that purely analytical system of the Gang of Three.
And if analysis and criticism feel easy and creativity feels hard, it's probably because we were never taught the process for it.
We were taught the brakes, but not the engine. We have to consciously use tools like provocation and random entry to forge new paths in our own minds.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought for you to take away. Think about a critical concept in your work, a box, some fixed procedure or definition that you know is holding things back. Now, what is the most unreasonable, most illogical provocation you could possibly apply to it? Use the power of Poe and see if it creates any forward movement.